calling by coaches. I don't know who's injured, who's healthy. I think in our business, it's too many hosts are overwrought ripping play calling. There's a lot more that goes into a game than just a single play. But it was tied at 20. You're deep in your own territory. Your quarterback just got his head banged into, and he's not playing well. Your run game's kind of effective. Houston has 3 timeouts. Force Houston to use them because there's not much time left. And yet Buffalo only burned 16 seconds because they passed it 3 straight times. That is unforgivable. And that's on the heels a couple of weeks ago from that zany, weird trick play against the Ravens that just muted all your momentum. I don't think you'd have won that game anyway, but it was a weird call that McDermott had to address. So it just doesn't make sense. Like there are certain things in football when there's 35 seconds in a game, it's 20-20, you're on the road, you are kind of effectively running the ball, your quarterback just got hurt and he's having his worst game as a pro, and you didn't even have your best slot receiver available. So it was just a terrible day for Josh Allen. And you're going to ask him deep in the territory on the road to fling it up the field 3 times? Therefore, Houston gets it back, doesn't have to move it much, gets a field goal and wins the game. Coaching lost that game. And again, Buffalo is way too noisy when it comes to coaching, game management, and coordinators. The Dorsey blow up, the goofy trick play. It's way too noisy. And again, Josh got hurt, didn't have a slot receiver. You just run the ball. Texans take 3 timeouts. Maybe you lose the game in overtime. I get it. You can't lose like that. There are losses that you're like, hey, chalk it up to a bad call, chalk it up to a bad day, the weather. That is totally on the head coach. Here's Sean McDermott after.
That's on me. The end of game situation on offense. They were on 3 timeouts. I got a good field goal kicker. We needed to run the clock and move the chains, and that's on me. We didn't do that there, and that's my fault. I love Josh with the ball in his hands. I do. And again, efficient offense was the right approach there.
Listen, Andy Reid in crisis feels like a life preserver for the Chiefs. Sean McDermott in crisis is starting to feel like a kettleball for the Bills. He is pulling them down. And those losses the last couple of weeks are to teams that you'll probably have an opportunity to play in the postseason, and you're giving home field up. And Buffalo is one of the great home field advantages due to weather and their crowd noise in the league. So you're just giving up home field advantage. Nobody wants to go to Buffalo in January. Nobody wants to go to Buffalo. I mean, forget Josh Allen. If you're a good team and you're a better roster, you don't want to go up to Buffalo, outdoors, that crowd, Josh Allen, that weather. You're just giving up home field advantage. Brutal. I don't even get it. I don't even understand it. You ever have something in your life happen and you're like, did I miss something? What am I not getting? So I go online and people are freaking out and I'm like, okay, all right. Just so I'm not crazy. They're doing something here that is unforgivable as a head coach. Jay last 20.
Okay. So I struggle to make sense of this game. It's funny. Look, I don't disagree with anything that Colin is necessarily saying. But this game was really bizarre, right? Josh Allen goes 9 for 30 for 131 yards, right? He did make up a third of their rushing yards, right? He was still nearly their leading rusher, which just always drives me crazy the way how the Bills go about this. Right, they had 5 punts in the first half. They had like 4 penalties, I think, in their opening drive, or however many penalties it was. I forget exactly, but it was a lot, and it crushed their drive. And yet they still almost won. They lost on a walk-off field goal, right? That was a 59-yarder. So, I'm like, I don't even know how to make sense of that, right? Like, how you cannot play good. You're also given gifts. The interception was a gift. The fumble was a gift from the Texans, essentially. And yet the Bills not only couldn't win, but they still played awful and yet still almost won, right? They absolutely could have won that game. And that's where the confusion comes from. And then you can even see, 9 for 30, like there was just no one for Josh Allen to throw to. There was nowhere for him to go with the ball. And everything was so tightly contested, or it was just like, what do you want me to do? And yet they still try to like keep doing it. And again, it's just this is such an overused cliche, but it's just, accurate in this standpoint. It's a definition of insanity, right? You're just doing the same thing again and again and again and expecting different results. And the perfect thing that encapsulates that were those, final 3 throws that he made. There was nowhere for him to go with the ball. It was like, all right, just throw it. And it was like, okay, here's like really tight 1-to-1 coverage that's like going to be impossible to get our receiver the ball. Right. And then there's another play where it was just like, I just kind of have to throw it up. And then the third one, it was like he couldn't step into the throw because the pocket collapsed on him and he had to just get rid of it. Right. He obviously can't take a sack there or whatever. And then he just can't get enough behind it. And so then he skips it. There's just nothing for him to do. And it was just like, to me, that was like the perfect representation of how this game unfolded. And yet they still were able to almost win it, which is just kind of crazy. And yeah, situationally from a coach standpoint, and this is what makes Andy Reid pretty much second to no one and Bill Belichick during his heyday. Situationally, those coaches are just not being outcoached. They just never are. And there are so rarely going to make the wrong decision. Now, in defense of some of these coaches, it took Andy Reid like a decade plus of failing in that situation with the Eagles before he finally started to get better at it, right? So it does come with experience, but it's tough to see when you have this. And when when you have a game like this, and this is what I want to pose to Buffalo Bills fans, like you see a game like that, right? Who do you blame how this unfolded this way, right? Who do you blame? Do you blame the OC for not being able to have a good offensive game plan? Do you blame Sean McDermott for, not taking control of how the game needs to be executed in the final couple of minutes? Do you blame Josh Allen, say he just needs to be better? Do you blame the receivers, the running, like who do you blame? Right? Like where does your mind go? Because games like this happen, right? Like you're gonna have some bad games, you're gonna have some weird games. We've seen all over the NFL now, like some great quarterbacks have some really bizarre box scores. Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, Joe Burrow. It's just you're just like, are those rookie quarterback numbers? Like, what is this guy 19? Did he somehow sneak into the NFL? And we've seen it just this season alone. We've seen them all have it. Which is really fascinating. I don't know if I've ever really seen that over these years, although I confess I'm looking at box scores a lot more closely than I ever have because of this channel. But it's just really, really fascinating to see. So I'm just curious, how do Buffalo Bills fans take this, right? When they watch it, so they're just like, oh, this was a weird game. It just happens. Or, oh my God, Josh Allen has to be better. Or, oh my God, what the heck was Brady calling? What was that game plan? Why was our wide receivers never open? Why was there no one for Josh to ever throw to? Like, why did we keep throwing the ball? Sean McDermott, what do you do? Right? Like, I honestly am curious more because I watched the game and I don't even know. It's like I kind of blame a little bit of everyone to a degree. It kind of feels like it's 33%, 33%, 33%. But at the same time, I watch a game like that and I'm like, I don't know how to feel about it, quite frankly. I really do. I watch it and I'm just like, I don't know what to make of it. Because this was also a game that I was unable to watch live, so I have to watch the replay. And I had the box score kind of spoiled for me. I try when I watch the games, I try not to know the outcome. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Especially because sometimes I'm watching another game and they give you updates while you're watching that, when they have like the game breaks or whatever. So I saw the box score of this game before I ever even got to watch the game. I don't know if I knew the outcome, but I think I knew what Josh went for. And I see the 9 for 30, 131 yards. And I go like, well, how's that? I was like, how's that possible? Right? Was there like an obscene amount of drop passes? Like, were they just trying to air it out? Like what's the actual story here? Like, how did this actually unfold? And it was just, yeah, it's again, this is what makes the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes such a force to be reckoned with. Because in a game like this, they still find a way to win that game because their defense locks it down. Andy Reid's coaching locks it down. And then Patrick Mahomes, even if he's having an awful game, throwing multiple interceptions and can't move the ball down the field, he can still make a play, right? It's not to say that Josh can't do those things, because I don't think he's ever supported enough in that situation. And that's why it's like a combination between bad execution and the Buffalo Bills just putting their own players in positions to not succeed. And that is something that I talk about a lot, how it's very important for coaches to put their players in a position to succeed. And that is something that we see Andy Reid and Spags, for that matter, constantly putting their players in a position to succeed. Even that, throw for Patrick Mahomes against the Bengals with the pass interference. They put the Chiefs in a position that then put the Bengals in a position to be desperate to do the pass interference, which then ultimately led to the Chiefs winning. To me, that's a perfect example of that, right? It was kind of like it wasn't like a traditional Hail Mary, obviously, but it was 4th and long, and it was like, I just got to throw it up. Patrick Mahomes was at least able to get away and make the throw and make it where it was like, and I don't think he would have caught it if it wasn't a pass interference, but it was still in a moment. It still set the moment up for essentially pass interference, or for him to at least make an awesome catch, right? It made the Bengals be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and force, I think it was a rookie, to make the mistake and just slam into, I don't even know how, but just slamming into the receiver, right? And again, it was the play call by Andy. It was the defense by Spags that kept it close. It was the throw by Mahomes. It was all of that together. Compare that to the Bills, and you had weird play calling, poor execution, and then again, putting your quarterback in this position in his own end zone, nowhere to go, nowhere to move, and asking him to now just throw 3 times to guys that aren't even open. Right, it was just like there's just nowhere for him to go. You're putting your team in a position to fail, and that to me will always be a tough pill to swallow. As someone who's had coaches that have put myself in great positions to succeed and have put me in bad positions to succeed, it's a terrible feeling when you have coaches who don't put you in a position to succeed, because you feel powerless. You feel powerless. You feel dumb. You start to doubt yourself. And if you don't have the maturity and the space and the distance to just recognize what's happening, it can really start to crush and compound. So I'm curious to see how the Buffalo Bills bounce back from this. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about this game? Who do you blame? What were your thoughts just watching it? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.